Welcome to Myanmar Musings, a podcast of the Myanmar Research Centre at the Australian National University, Canberra. I'm Luke Corbin, and today is Saturday the 31st of July, and we're bringing you another seminar live recorded from the Myanmar Update Conference earlier this month. This talk was by Afke Jager, and it's titled Poverty, Food Insecurity and Social Protection During COVID-19 and the Coup in Myanmar. Combined evidence from household phone surveys and micro-simulations. Now, Afke is introduced by Aung Jo Mo, who's the founder and executive director of the Centre for Social Integrity. However, there is no Q&A at the end of this presentation. Afke simply speaks for 20 minutes on her research, and then the talk concludes. So we hope you really enjoy it, and I'm taking a step into the shadows now.
My name is Aung Jo Mo. I am the founder and executive director of Centre for Social Integrity, a leading local NGO promoting pluralism, diversity, and inclusions with an innovative approach called Nexus and Beyond. It is an honor to be moderating this panel today with three distinguished panelists. I would like to introduce Afke Jager, the Myanmar Country Director for Innovations for Poverty Actions, a research and a policy nonprofit that discover and promote effective solutions to the global poverty problems. She comes here with 6 years of experience running research studies at international organizations and academic in East Africa, Central America, East Asia. In Myanmar, IPA has launched 7 COVID-19 rapid response survey to address the urgent need to understand the most effective response to the COVID-19 to save lives, while at the same time mitigating health, social, economic impact on the vulnerable populations. IPA continues to work to generate reliable and timely data and evidence. So with no further ado, I would like to give the floor to Afke. The floor is yours. Thank you so much.
All right, so my name is Afke Jager, and as I was introduced, I'm the Country Director of Innovations for Poverty Action in Myanmar. We've been working in Myanmar since 2015, we, as Aung Jo Mo said, we are a policy and research institute, and we work together with academia and development actors to find programs and policies and try to see what works and why. The survey results that I'm going to present is a collaboration between IPA and the International Food and Research Policy Institute, IFRI. Last year in early 2020, when the COVID pandemic started, we started panel surveys with specific samples throughout Myanmar. And I'm presenting the results of one of these surveys, which is the Rural and Urban Food Security Survey. But before I get into these results, I just want to say a big thanks to ANU for allowing us to present here. And of course, also to the IFRI team and the IPA team for all their hard work on this. I think I'm lucky that I can present the results, but there have been many people behind the scenes who have been working on this. All right. So, as I said, the results that I'm going to present here is from a panel survey that we've been doing since June 2020. So first we started with monthly rounds from June to November, December in 2020. And we have completed one round in May this year, and currently there is a new round underway. I will quickly highlight a couple of the initial results from the July round, but as it's still in progress, you'll have to wait for the result for that study for a couple more weeks, but we'll of course be happy to share. We are going to share these results, of course, as well. This survey was administered to mothers of young children in 2 different areas, in urban Yangon and in the rural dry zone. We aim to interview about 2,000 people each round, and we have been balancing the rural and the urban sample, so about 1,000 each. Unfortunately, and this is what happens in real life, of course, is that you're never able to speak with the people that you start speaking to in the beginning. It's hard to keep them on the phone for all these rounds. So we have people that are dropping in and out. And in the last survey round that we did in May, of which the main results that I'm presenting today are included, we do see quite a drop in response rates. And that's either because people are not comfortable to speak with us, they have other things in our mind, and we also see that many phone numbers are no longer working. So from the people that we were not able to reach, we have replaced them by other samples. So the results that I'm presenting today are of roughly 2,000 people. Of course, there is one thing to consider here is this potential for selection bias, because we're not sure whether the people who we're not able to reach, maybe they are more likely to have moved or have suffered significant shocks. But I think it does, the whole survey in general will give us quite a good idea of what is happening, specifically for Yangon and the rural dry zone. One thing to note as well, and I'll go more into detail in the presentation, is that we see that for the Yangon sample, that many respondents have moved out of Yangon. So I'll try where important we've kind of split out the results. So you can see, because of course people who stay in Yangon or move out, they have faced very different experiences. So in the next couple of slides, I will be presenting 6 main findings. So about each slide is one specific finding, and at the end there's a quick summary. So the first is about the effects that people have felt from the political instability. So these are, we asked people, what are the 3 main effects, or the 3 main impacts that you have felt? And the enumerator would read them a list of answer options, and then they could choose 3 of them. So we see that about 1 in 7, or 14%, they report having no impact. And this was in May, so about 2 months ago. I guess the next major impact that is felt is that people have either experienced loss of income, almost half of the sample, slightly higher in the urban regions. There's also a lot of people reporting that they are fearing of the future where household income will decrease. People are also feeling unsafe. As you can see, about 38% of the total sample, and that is quite similar between the urban areas and the rural areas. There's also people that report that they are afraid that there will be problems in food supply, and of course worry about their family getting hurt or detained. So the next key result that we found from the May survey is that a lot of people have moved from the household where we spoke with them in December. So you actually see the question here, are you still residing in the same dwelling as in December 2020? And we see that 1 in 5 people of urban households have moved. And the reasons are mostly economic. The first reason is mostly that people are fearing about their security. And then other reasons that are mentioned are more economic reasons. So people who want to save on rent, who are looking for taking new employment, but also getting help from family for childcare or for financial support. As you can see here in this table, that it's mostly the people from Yangon that move to either urban areas in a different region, or they move to rural areas. So you can see here, about 44% of the people that have moved, they move to rural areas. And finally, the last finding here about migration is that from the people in Yangon that have moved out, About 1 in 3 says that they will not come back. So they are moving for permanently. And in total, like 50% will say that either they will leave permanently or longer than 6 months. This was, as I said, this was the survey that was done in May. And from the survey that we are currently undertaking, we see that actually a lot of people have returned back to their original household. Let me get back to that one later. So the next finding is about job loss. So in this graph, you can see the households that report that someone in their household have lost their job in the past month. And you can see it for the months that we've been doing the survey. So in August, September, October, November, and again in May. And we've made the difference between the rural areas and the urban areas. And what you can see here is that in general, the number of households or the percentage of households that lose their job is lower in the rural areas. But there is definitely also a sort of, I guess, a relationship, or you can see that when there is an increase in the COVID crisis, that you can also see the percentage of households that lose their job in the past month kind of goes along with it. So especially in September and October, when there was the second wave, we can see that especially in the urban areas, the households with job loss almost double. And unfortunately, right now in May, we can see that the job loss is higher than last year. So if you look at November 2020 and May 2021, you can see in both the rural and urban areas that the percentage of households that experience job loss is about double. And we've also asked if they experience job loss. We also ask whether they have been able to find a new job or casual work. And we see that actually in May, very few of them are able to find a new job. So, as I mentioned, we see quite a difference between households that have moved out of Yangon. So this slide digs a bit deeper into the experiences of the Yangon sample, as we call it, that stayed in Yangon or moved. So as you can see here, as you can see here for the whole Yangon sample, so what you can see here is the significant difference between what households have been experiencing since December 2020. So for the job losses, when we see that people who have moved, we see that the percentage of households is almost double, so 43% in May, compared to the 16% that it was in December. And as I think this is something that we want to investigate further in the upcoming survey rounds. This is, of course, also one of the topics that we dig into in the survey that's ongoing right now, but it's also something that we want to do in the future. Then the next finding is about poverty. So this is measured on income poverty. And in the table below, you can see the percentage of the sample that is below has an income per capita of less than 890 kyat per day. We asked in the first survey round that we did in June, we tried to ask people to estimate the income that they had pre-COVID, so in January. And you can clearly see that for both the rural and the Yangon sample, you can see that the percentage of households in our sample, poverty dramatically increased, especially at the second half of the year. You see over 60% of people who are experiencing income poverty. In May, we see a slight decline in poverty, especially in the rural areas, but unfortunately an increase in the urban sample. And We have also shown the results here that are for the Yangon sample that either moved out of Yangon or that stayed in Yangon. We can see that the income-based poverty is also is impacted. This is of course related to the job losses. So we see for people who were in Yangon and moved out that they see they experience higher loss in jobs, and they also face higher income poverty. So you can see here it goes up from 48 to 63% from 2020 to 2021. We have also mapped out coping strategies of our respondents. So if they indicate that they have income loss, we ask them in each round, what are the ways that they deal with this challenge? As you can see, the higher percentages of people, or the strategies that they incorporate is reducing non-food consumption. So you can see that is around the 30% and stays quite stable. Another coping strategy is borrowing money, and the third one is using cash savings. And over the timeline that we've been doing these surveys, you can see that there is a decrease in the percentage of people that use their cash savings over time as buffers become slimmer and slimmer. What is interesting here to note is that the purple line, which is the reduced food consumption strategy, is something that we see quite an increase compared from 2020 going into 2021. So in November last year, only 3.5% of our sample said that reducing food consumption is one of the coping strategies that has increased to almost 15%. We also see an increase of helping or asking help from relatives. And another coping strategy that is mentioned is the selling of non-farm assets. And the last key result that I would like to share with you is about food insecurity. So we have incorporated several indicators in our survey, and we don't see a lot of change in the last survey rounds. The one exception is the indicator that is eating only a few kinds of food. And we see here that between November 2020 and May 2021, we see that more people in our sample eat only a few kinds of food. So it's 6% in the rural area and 3% in the Yangon sample. And we see here that from households or people that lived in Yangon, but they left since December 2020, we see that the increase there is actually 7%. Unfortunately, we were not able to present the full results of the July update, but these are a few key takeaways. So we actually see that almost everyone, or a very high percentage of people that moved since December 2020 have returned to their townships of July. We do see that for the people who have either returned back to their townships or still in a different location as where they were in December, we still see high unemployment rates, about 1 in 3. The poverty rates that I presented, they remain high for all groups. And with groups, I mean the people that are in the urban area in Yangon, in the dry zone, and also for people who moved out of Yangon or have come back. And we don't see any major changes in food insecurity so far. So this is a high-level summary. I won't go into all these points, but I think the main takeaways that we saw from the May survey is this very high migration. So a lot of people who have left urban areas, moving to other states and regions. We see very high poverty rates in 2020, but seemingly a bit of a downward trend for 2021. We see that households that moved out of Yangon, we see higher poverty rates, more loss of jobs in their households, and also facing a bit more food insecurity related to diet diversity. And as I mentioned at the beginning, there, the attrition in the Yangon sample, so meaning that we were not able to speak with everyone in the Yangon sample, could mean that we're underestimating impacts here. We are continuing these surveys throughout 2021. We are also planning to do a bit more qualitative interviews. So these results are all from phone-based surveys, which usually take about 30 to 45 minutes. So of course, the number of questions that we can ask is limited. So the research team is planning to dig in a bit further and really get more into the details of what is exactly happening for people who live in Yangon or in the dry zone. And that was my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Afke, for informative and interesting research finding presentation.